Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into some entitled parents. Our first story today comes to us from Minty Mintertons. Entitled dad tries to gaslight, manipulate, and extort me for $90K over a used Prius because I got the coronavirus vaccine. Let's jump right in. I apologize, this is going to be pretty long and might actually belong in Raised by Narcissists, but since they're anti-vaxxer Karens, I'm putting this here. So my parents are complete anti-vaxxer Karens and Darrens. We're talking full-on, vaccines cause autism, and coronavirus was invented by Bill Gates to mind control us all with spike proteins. Horse-paced guzzling types with no sense of personal responsibility or empathy for others. I repeatedly watched them get kicked out of businesses for refusing to wear a mask, and my Karen mother even had a meltdown in a grocery store that I'm surprised wasn't recorded and blasted all over the internet. But that's not what this story is about. The problem came around when I, non-binary 24, got the vaccine for work. My job has me dealing with a lot of people, and a large amount of them are elderly, pregnant, or immune compromised. I figured I'd just get it and not tell them, since I live about an hour away in the next state over and, at the time, visited them once a week on my day off. After my second shot, I got a little sick. Note, if you get the shot, make sure you drink a lot of electrolyte drinks after or you'll feel like crap. And while laid up in bed, I called my sister, who lives 4 hours away, because it was her birthday. During the conversation, I mentioned that I'd gotten the vaccine. Unbeknownst to me, my Karen mother was in the car with her during a visit I didn't know about and heard every word. She proceeds to have a 5-alarm meltdown at my sister's house, saying that I am going to die while my sister gives me a play-by-play via text. When my mother returned at the end of the week, she called me and told me that I'm no longer allowed over at her house unless I take these supplements she got off Facebook to stop the spike proteins, and that I'm not allowed to visit my brother, who is 39 and lives 2 states over, or his kids. At this point, I'd had enough of her crap, and I told her my health is none of her business, and whether or not I can visit is my brother's decision, not hers. She exploded, and I hung up the phone. An important thing to note here is that the car I drive, a used Prius, technically belonged to my grandparents. After my grandmother had a stroke and got in a car crash, a minor one where no one was injured thank goodness, they decided to give me the car since I needed one, and told my dad to make that happen since he had power of attorney. He agreed to do it in exchange for $2,500 that he'd put towards the $90,000 Parent Plus loan he has from my college. I gave him $600 a month in addition to paying my own loans to help, since it's a lot of money, even though his salary is around $200,000 and I make $17 an hour. Midway through my exile, I decided to try to be the bigger person and clear things up with my mom. I invited her out to lunch to listen to her concerns and establish some boundaries for the both of us so we can move on with our relationship. I know that sounds dumb, but I thought since she gave birth to me, I could reason with her and we could talk it out like adults. That didn't happen. The entire lunch, she treated me like I was diseased. She wouldn't touch or hug me and kept her food as far away from me as possible. When I tried to broach the subject of apologizing and patching this up, she launches into a tirade about how she will not compromise or walk on eggshells for me. For no reason, she drags my sexuality into it. I've been openly queer since I was a teen, and while they're not openly disapproving, they still avoid the topic like the plague. I never told them I was non-binary because I knew how they'd react, and said since it makes her uncomfortable and I need psychological help. That was my last straw. I said goodbye, walked away from the table, and decided to go no contact while I grieved and made a plan for how to move forward. Fast forward a few weeks when I went to renew my tabs and made an appointment to renew my license. They got sent to my parents' house because my dad still holds the title. Since I still had limited contact with my dad, and I asked him about it, and we agreed to get the car title settled. I tell him I'll go anywhere but the house to do it because I didn't want to face mom while I was still angry and say something to her that I'd regret. He kept moving the time and place around until last night he called and finally said either I come to the house to confront them or he'll call the police. I remind him that they both forbade me from going back to the house, and I crap you not, he went full gaslight and says, "No, we did not. You're making stuff up." I tell him I am not going to the house, and that's when he told me I needed to come back for the title paperwork and to sign a promissory note. I asked him what the promissory note is for, and he told me it's an agreement to pay the Parent Plus loan back to him. He literally said it was the only leverage he had over me, and if I didn't sign, I wasn't getting the car. I told him it wasn't my loan, and he got really angry and called me a bunch of names. He ended the conversation by telling me either I show up at the house or forfeit the free car. I asked for my $2,500 back then, and he told me to F off. After a night of crying, I called my sister and made a plan to close the bank account my dad has access to and just get a different car with the money I have in my savings and leave my grandparents' car and keys in their driveway while they're gone and just mail them some money each month for the loan without a return address. A used Prius is not worth signing my life away to some entitled POS. OP received a whole bunch of comments down below this story about not paying any more money to them at all. Let them take you to court and continue no contact. Do you think a judge is going to be lenient on parents who attempt to blackmail their children? I mean, come on. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. So that post was from 8 days ago. OP posted a new one today. It says, regarding entitled dad tries to extort me for $90,000 over a used Prius because I got the coronavirus vaccine. Let's jump right into the update. Sorry for the long post, this is the follow-up to my original post. Hello again, Reddit. I'd first like to thank everyone who commented on my original post. I cannot explain to you the relief in knowing I'm not alone in this, and your advice was extremely helpful. It's been a whirlwind of a week, but I can proudly say I've officially gone non-contact with crazy anti-vaxxer mom and dad. Honestly, I've never felt more relieved. I knew after the post I had to do something ASAP. I decided at the end of my last post that it wasn't worth keeping the car. I texted my manager at work Sunday, and she greenlighted a PTO day for me the following Monday. First thing I did was go straight to my bank the moment it opened and explained my situation. The clerk I worked with was extremely understanding and helped me plan a strategy. I couldn't ditch the car until Saturday, and I didn't want entitled dad figuring out what I was up to until it was too late. She suggested we keep the old account up since he could see it, but move most of my money to a new account through a withdrawal deposit so that it just looked like I paid rent or something. While we worked the transaction, I texted entitled dad agreeing to meet next week Thursday to sign the promissory note. The smug butthole replied that was fine and said, "It's good you're coming to your senses." I'm amazed I didn't pull something with how hard my eyes rolled. Once I finished up at the bank, I thanked the clerk and moved on to my next move. Obviously, I was going to need a new car. I'm sure entitled dad thought he wiped me out with that $2,500. He didn't have access to my savings account, so he didn't have a clue how much money I actually had saved up. Late Sunday night, I inquired about a lot of used cars in my area and got a response back from a dealer who had a car I liked with decent mileage right in my price range. After the bank, I drove over there, and after a quick inspection and look at the car's history, I went ahead and bought it. While I waited for all the paperwork to go through, I tapped away on my phone and extricated myself from everything I shared with them. Car insurance, health insurance, everything. I decided in order to go full no contact, I needed to vanish from their life completely. Car purchased, I moved on to my next move, changing my phone number. Entitled dad still had me on his phone plan. I did worry that I'd have to get a new phone, since technically he bought it back in December. I gave him the money and he went to the store. Luckily, since I paid the full amount and it wasn't on a payment plan, I got to keep my phone. Score! Getting on my own account and switching everything took all of 15 minutes, and I walked out a free human. I went home and talked to my landlord about the event. She lives with me, it's a shared house, and said if entitled dad comes knocking for me, she'll call the cops, which is super cool of her. My manager, who knows my situation and is a real MVP, helped me pick up my new car on Tuesday. That just left getting rid of the Prius. Obviously, I'd need help. I couldn't drive the car there and just get a cab back, since entitled dad's house is way out in the sticks. I don't have a lot of friends since I moved here during the lockdown and haven't done a lot of going out and socializing even though I'm vaccinated. So I asked my partner and my rock through this whole nightmare. Since he can't drive long distances due to a health problem, he asked some of our mutual friends. See, his friends who I've only hung out with a handful of times. I didn't think anybody would do it, since I don't exactly live close to my parents and I needed to drop off the car in the dead of night to ensure my safety. To my surprise, multiple people came forward saying they'd help. Reddit, I cannot impress upon you the relief in just knowing I have allies. I nearly burst into tears when I got the text volunteering to not only meet me in the middle of nowhere at the dead of night, then drive my sorry butt back home, but offers to have me stay with them instead, just in case Entitled Dad tried to hunt me down. It just felt so good to know people cared about what I was going through and wanted to help, and I felt so deeply moved by their kindness and generosity. After the most nerve-wracking week of my life, I woke up at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning and met my partners in not really a crime at a gas station near Entitled Dad's house. We successfully dropped off the Prius, and once I got back home, I immediately turned around and drove to my brother's place in the next state to meet up with my sister and hang out with my adorable little baby nieces. The best part is, while I was hanging out with the kids, Entitled Dad called my sister, livid that I wasn't answering the phone, and demanded to know how the Prius got to his house. My sister looked at me dead in the eye as she told Entitled Dad that she has no idea what he's talking about, and that I'd been at my brother's place since Friday. When he demanded that he talk to me, she said he couldn't because I had already left and hung up the phone. She told me over a nice bottle of bourbon that she'd also been planning on going no contact with them for a while, and she was so proud of me for having the strength to pull all of this off. Now I'm just straight chilling, looking forward to the future with my court appearance for a legal name change looming just over the horizon, and following up on a couple applications I put out for some higher paying jobs in my field. I can't say for sure that they won't try something, but Entitled Dad is very limited in what he can do. Really, it feels like I've dropped a huge weight. They really caused me a great deal of pain and suffering throughout my years on this planet, and it feels great to finally be free. Well, OP, there's one more thing you need to do, and it was mentioned in the comments down below this one. It says, maybe consider putting a freeze on your credit, because your parents sound like the kind of people who might try to take out a loan in your name. I mean, they know your social security number, they probably know the answers to all the identity theft inhibiting questions, and yes, it's illegal, but we already know that your parents don't think very clearly. That's something that I would do if I were you, just to cover your butt. Another thing is to remember that no contact means no contact. So even when you have those down moments where you're like, oh, I miss my family, don't go back to them. Your life is going to be so much better without them. Our last story today comes to us from Kasumi Kagura. An entitled mom tries to get me to give her son my PS5, Xbox Series X, and my TV. Let's jump right in. Hello, first time posting, and I got a doozy of a story. I'm about 20-ish years old, never ask a lady her true age, and I am pretty autistic. I'm high functioning in that I can type and play video games very well, but my social skill disabilities are so severe that I qualify for disability. The government gives me a monthly disability check, which means I do not have to work. As such, I have plenty of free time. During the start of the pandemic, I was severely lucky that I was able to score a PS5 and an Xbox Series X using the first COVID check that President Trump gave out. It was for the economy, so I did not feel guilty spending the money on something like that. With the second and third checks, I bought a new TV. I bought a Sony X900H 65-inch TV, which could utilize those consoles' capabilities to their fullest. 4K, 120Hz, the works. Now we have some neighbors, and this is where entitled mom comes in. My nephew, who my younger sister was mentally incapable of caring for, she's a legit psychopath. Like literally, she feels next to zero emotion except for herself, is best friends with one of the neighbor's kids, and he comes over a lot. Being the kind aunt, I often let the kids use my consoles. I have some rules they have to follow. Face masks, hands washed, hand sanitizer, etc. Because I am unvaccinated, I am allergic, I'm 100% pro-vaccine though. After a few months, the kid begs his mom to buy him a PS5 and Xbox, and as expected, she cannot find one. She then comes to me, and I swear, in the most Karen of Karen voices, she asks, Excuse me, can I buy your consoles off you? My son loves playing on them, and I would appreciate it if you gave them to me. I'll give you $300. I was shocked. I knew she was looking online for them and knew they cost $500 each, so I responded, I can talk to people I'm familiar with, but new people I shut down easily. Sorry, each console is $500 and not for sale. Sorry that you're unable to find one that's not scalped, but I play on these all the time, and I already sold my PS4 Pro and my Xbox One X. These are all I have to play my library of games. Cue entitled parent mode. Aw, you're a young lady. You shouldn't be playing with a boy's toy anyway. You should be looking for a boyfriend and enjoying life. Maybe start a family. I'll give you $500 to give me both, and that's my final offer. Sexism aside, I was taken aback by the second lowball offer. I decided to play on Karen's lack of knowledge of how these systems worked and told her this. Ma'am, these are next generation hardware, and they will not function properly on older TVs. I know you haven't gotten your son a new TV yet, and the one I have here is $2,400 and is the minimum you need in order to use these consoles. Sorry, but even if I sold them to you, they wouldn't work on your older TV. Super Karen Level 2 activated. Then give me your TV too. All of this is used, so I'll take them all for $1,000. Be grateful you're getting that much. Again taken aback, but finally my mother came down the stairs, hearing all the shouting, and stepped in. Karen, it's time for you to go home. Stop harassing my daughter, and also, I feel like it would be best for my grandson if your son never came to see him again. I raised him to be a kind, generous young man, and I feel like you're a bad influence on him. Now leave my home, or else I will call the police. Karen left, and often when I'm going out for food or to pick up a new game at the store, I see her in the yard, and she gives me this cold, evil glare, like I am the bad guy. There has to be some kind of intellectual disability in these Karens, because I don't see how any normal person could figure that, oh, I'm just gonna offer you a little bit of money for something that costs a lot of money, even though it's not mine, you should just give it to me because I'm more important. How the hell does that work? So down in the comment section below, have you ever dealt with somebody that you figured wasn't firing on all cylinders, maybe a couple marbles short of a game? Let me know your stories, I'd love to hear them. Check out both OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.